Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host tonight, Erica. You are in the Anarchist Transmission, and I am joined today by uh, my lovely co-hosts. Excuse me. First, I'm gonna start with Dale. Say hello to everyone, Dale.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show from Montreal.
And then we have my lovely fiance, Kota. Say hello, Kota.
Hello, everyone.
And then we have our resident of the non existent state, Luna. Say hello, Luna.
Hello, it's your hostess with the mostest.
And then we have Mali, our resident Serbian. Say hello, Mali.
Hello, mommy.
Okay. Now that the introductions are over, uh, I'm just gonna get right to it. So we we have a pit bull in our house, and it
Does it
appears
eat children?
no, it does not eat children. Um,
Aw.
our pit bull is the most loving dog. She will quite literally adopt herself out to you. Just open a car door and she's yours.
Fun fact, despite a lot of common misconceptions, if raised right, pit bulls they love children in the sense that they will protect children like with their own lives.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, they will. Um, so there is a video running around in the ether of a let me see if I can find it, of a cop shooting a dog, which
What's
I
new?
shouldn't surprise anyone here.
No, not in the
hmm,
least.
I think I saw the one. Is it the one where he shoots? I believe it's a golden retriever, but
Uh-huh.
multiple times for it just basically slightly running at him.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got to find it. Um no, that's not where it is. Give me a second here to find it. So what happens in the video is the officer, Lorraine Police. Let me see if I can find it
It's
on YouTube.
I know it starts out, the audio is cut. There is no audio at the beginning of the clip, like of the body cam footage, and then all of a sudden, you see the one dog running over to the officer, and you just see gun in frame and firing on the dog multiple times, like mag
Yep.
dumps into this dog.
He had his body cam muted, and not until after he shot the dog did he turn on the audio. Uh, Let me grab the video. I understand and wish to proceed. And then I will get this put up for everyone to see. Let's see. YouTube. Okay, so here's the first lab. Just sniffing, just wanting to see.
Just doing what a dog does.
Yeah. And that's that. That's what happened. Now, at this point, the dog is still alive, but it's gonna crawl over to the curb, trying to get it, gonna try to get itself to a safe place. These dogs were quite literally just trying to greet the officer,
Yep.
and
And what? The officer was like, "Do you have a license to exist?"
well, this is what cops do. They act as if a dog trotting up is a threat to them. Now, I get I get the argument
Mm.
that, you know, dogs can
Why?
be dangerous because they train
Yeah.
dogs to be dangerous.
Yeah.
But
Why is it that cops are like scared of they're in fear for their life over everything?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
I honestly don't know. I really don't.
They're in fear of their life over everything. Yet, if you are like nervous in any way, that's somehow like not on them. That's on you.
Yeah,
Because
it
how dare
makes
you
you
be like
suspicious.
yeah, like how? What do you mean you're nervous around around an officer? Why are you nervous? That clearly means that you did something wrong.
Yep.
So cops get a different standard than everyone else, which I call bullshit. um okay, so there's that. Let's see what no that this is what happens when I don't produce for a week. I mess up a few things.
It's
Let's see
alright.
here. Okay,
Less things will be messed up than last week, so it's an improvement.
Well, it's stuff that we've got to work on. It's not a big deal.
True.
Okay, so because of that video, one of the people that I follow closely on Twitter actually he actually had something to say about it. Reverend Ducati.
Is this someone you follow? Is this like a hate follow or a follow because you actually like them?
It's a follow because I actually like them. Now, I was attracted to them because they're also an anarchist. Let me pull it up for everyone to see. There's the tweet. It says, someone shoots a cop who shoots his dog, and I'm on the jury. That dude is walking, not guilty.
Based.
Yes, very based. And I've had this discussion before. If you shoot my dog in my presence, it tells me that you are a danger to me because I know for a matter of fact that my dogs aren't a danger to you. Doesn't matter if you're a cop or a federal agent or not, just an average Joe Schmo. You shoot my dog, I'm shooting you. You are now a threat, a present threat to life. I'm going to use deadly force. And I went ahead and I said exactly that. You shoot my dog, you're getting shot. No question about it. My dogs aren't dangerous. No matter how much someone tries to justify their fear of pit bulls, my little ankle biter is more dangerous than my pit. And while my pit bull Ruby has playfully bit us, she has never broken skin. She's never even left marks.
Clarification, the biting was her play chomping, how a dog normally, chomps their jowls to make that little snapping sound, and our hand just got in the way of those chomping jowls. That is it. She did not bite in the actual sense.
Yeah, anyone who has had a dog and played with a dog knows that sometimes there will be an accidental like nipping. Not even
That would
biting,
be that's like having a cat and the cat is making biscuits with their claws and you get in their way. Oh, now you got scratched. Now the cat has to die. No, the cat was just doing its own fucking thing.
Yeah, or it's like if you're playing with a cat and with your finger, you're probably gonna get scratched. But the cat's not. The cat is just playing. It's not. It's not that bad of a thing. It's just part of their play. They're not trying to hurt you.
The cat has to die. It is written in
Like-
the law.
Okay,
Like,
ATF agent.
Like my cat has like grabbed onto my arm and kind of like nommed onto my my wrist, things like that. It's just like
I'm
just
not
a
gonna
cat
have
thing.
I'm not gonna have much
Yeah.
of an opinion on most of the things going on here, but as far as the dog being shot, the officer can avoid jail time. Go for it. Avoid jail time. But if you own any fucking animal in that house, they are being put down immediately. They are being shot in front of your family. Your kids are gonna cry. Your kids are gonna need some fucking therapy. Not my problem. Not my issue. Good luck with that. Enjoy your life because every animal is a fucking danger to you, apparently. No animals for you. No pets, no nothing. Service dogs, not happening. Canine, put the dog down. Not fucking happening. You will freaking receive consequences for your hasty actions. You do not just get a pass.
I don't know about that. That's a little harsh on the animals. I mean, fuck the owner, fuck the cop guy, fuck like the family and all that, but the pets.
Obviously, when it comes to a threat, following through and then pulling the illusion, obviously the illusion would be a lot more freaking entertaining to get him to think that he actually just lost everything that he freaking preciously loved because he thought he was
Yeah.
entitled to kill someone else's preciously loved. It is
Yeah,
to the
like-
point, Luna, where this is not justification based on moral grounds. This is, you're going to fuck around and find out. We're going to play the entitled card with the entitled card. We're going to freaking play, you want to shed blood? Let's shed some blood. Let's make this into a fucking carry.
Well, see,
Yeah.
yesterday, fuck around and find out was indeed thrown around. And here's the next notable tweet. This is where the topic of eugenics comes into everything.
Oh god, that dude. I remember seeing this tweet.
Now, I had quote tweeted this dude, and he says pit bulls shouldn't even exist. They should be outlawed and the entire population of that vicious breed of dog put down, and any recalcitrant owners of them jailed until they become decent human beings and comply with the ban. Okay, so this is quite literally eugenics. This is Margaret Sanger, fucking Hitler, Stalin, Lenin type eugenics. Targeting an entire group and wiping them out. It doesn't matter if they're humans or some species of animal, it's a targeted killing of a life form. That's eugenics. And I had responded, my dogs are no threat to anyone. I'll issue the same warning to you as I've issued to the other ignorant fucker here. My dogs won't hurt you, but I will. If you come near my dogs in a threatening manner, prepare to lose your life. I'm not fucking around when it comes to my dogs.
As you shouldn't be. Dogs are precious. And
Yes.
it's also just worth noting, like, a dog is not just going to charge and bite someone for no reason. That dog that was shot wasn't growling. It didn't do it. It did not indicate in any manner that it was in a hostile state towards that cop. It just ran up to say hello. Like anyone who's ever been within running distance of a dog knows they do.
Precisely. We have the next idiot who is donning a profile picture of John Wayne. Now, this in and of itself, I understand the emotional argument.
It was just mailed to death. Fucking postal pit bulls.
that was actually one of the jokes, though I understood what he meant to say was mauled to death. And it happened. There are dogs of larger breeds that do just snap. It happened. Everyone understands this, but there are dogs of smaller breeds that also just snap. I understand death is more likely for larger breeds when they snap, but they are not the only breed of dog that snaps.
Yeah.
The
And it's also worth noting that generally when that happens, it's because of bad owners. The dogs themselves don't generally snap for no reason.
Yes,
They're usually either mistreated or at the very least very poorly trained.
exactly. And when it comes to these people, they are quite literally arguing that statistics justify eugenics. Uh,
I would.
specifically, this person.
I wonder if they would make similar arguments when it comes to people.
Oh, this person,
But then
they
I
actually
say
do
they
make
probably.
those references.
Oh no,
Well,
that was the last person. The last person does
oh.
because I led them
The last
into
person.
that.
Okay.
So
At least they're being consistent. I'll give them that.
so I had said your argument is equal to inner city violence and assuming everyone of a certain race is violent. And this is their response. Stats don't lie, a certain race is definitely more violent. I never said anything about the race being more violent, but they're basing their opinion on an entire race based on the actions of a minority of a minority.
Here's something Luna might be able to agree with a little bit more. Everyone who thinks that pit bulls are a far more ferocious, to be terrified species has not clearly seen the wrath of mankind. Mankind
Yeah.
is way more terrifying and dangerous than any species on this fucking planet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and go down this rabbit hole. The a certain race is definitely more violent. And I said, so you're a racist and want to perform eugenics. You will not believe how far down this rabbit hole it goes. They say not racist, realist. Big difference. I said, yeah, Hitler was a realist too. So was Stalin and Lenin. All of them in favor of eugenics. So was Margaret Sanger. It's very telling that you're just as much of a piece of shit. And this is where the absolute incompetence comes in. Their response was, where is this eugenics bullshit coming from? I just said that your pit bull should be put down. Do you not are you blind to see the fact that you think all pit bulls should be put down? That's eugenics.
Apparently so.
Eugenics is this whole idea that we can make the human race better by purifying the genetics of the human race, but it's further than that. That was just Hitler's idea on eugenics.
Yeah. Well, it's. I think it's worth noting that is. I believe the term is positive eugenics, or it's negative. That is a specific type of eugenics because there are two
Yeah,
main forms of eugenics.
There are several forms of eugenics. Breeding is understandable, as they've started to
Yes.
breed certain disabilities from French bulldogs out of the breed.
Right.
Like the fucking face isn't so fucking smashed anymore that they have breathing problems.
Yeah.
I mean, that part of the breed does still exist, but they're starting to breed that out so that, we're no longer making these animals suffer throughout
Right.
their entire fucking lives. That's positive eugenics, and I understand that. But even positive eugenics can go too far. And I didn't even
Yes.
know about the word eugenics until I had watched Star Trek. And anyone that knows about Star Trek, be it the original series, any of the movies, or Deep Space Nine, you've heard about the eugenics wars. Humans are flawed and
Oh.
people are trash. Yes, Coda.
For those of us who have not heard of the eugenics wars in Star Trek, can you briefly elaborate what that
Yeah,
was?
so in the original series, Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise run into uh, the starship called the Botany Bay, which is carrying
Mhm.
a bunch of genetically enhanced human beings from the mid 21st century. Among them is Han Noonien Sung. Now, Khan was a warlord during the mid 21st century, and a bunch of his followers were put into stasis and launched into space to waste away until there was no power left on the ship. Um, the topic was brought up again when they made Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan,
Oh,
and
so
then
that's the same Khan from Wrath of
yeah,
Khan.
it's the same Khan, and then they they factored uh, they factored the eugenics wars into Star Trek Deep Space Nine with the doctor of the space station, Dr. Julian Bashir. Um, he was genetically enhanced, and they had gone through a whole how do you do about why why genetically enhanced human beings are banned from service in Starfleet. And then in the prequel series, Star Trek Enterprise, with oh, what's his name, baby? The guy that plays Sam Beckett in Quantum Leap.
Why are you asking me about Quantum Leap? That's your show.
That I understand. The guy that plays Captain Archer.
Oh, oh God! Now you freaking have me questioning it.
Um, anyone? Bueller.
Um,
Scott
I'm
Bakula.
not
Thank you,
familiar with
Stoner.
that show.
Thank you, Scott Bakula. Uh, during the fourth season of the show, they did a throwback to a mention about the eugenics wars with Dr. Sung, the man who created Data, and he he had stolen genetically enhanced embryos and made them, he had put them through their cycle and raised them until they were 10, and at which point he was caught by the Federation and jailed. Anyways,
what did they do with those 10-year-olds?
well, pretty much all of them were killed. Not at that time because they were hidden away from the Federation.
Right, but so what exact? Because you mentioned they're referring to the eugenics. What exactly were those wars? Was there
The
some like war fought between genetically enhanced humans and
Yes.
non-genetically enhanced humans?
So
Oh,
the way this all worked was there was a person who believed you can genetically enhance all of the issues out of humanity. But what they didn't realize when they did it was that not only do you genetically enhance their abilities, you also genetically enhance their emotions. Han Noonien
hmm.
Sung was not only a narcissist and a psychopath, uh, but he was extremely strong. Killed a lot of people. Um,
Hmm.
and like I said, being a warlord, that's that's the that's the whole gist of what we actually understand about the eugenics wars.
Oh,
Um, but the whole idea that we can make the human race better through genetic engineering there's such a thing as going too far.
I mean,
It's
people were like against cloning because it's like, oh, it's immoral and everything, you know. But like, you can like rid people of some diseases with eugenics if you don't go too far.
yes, I understand that, Stoner. I'm just talking in vernacular. I know that the
But
Federation wasn't a thing, that it was just the United Earth. I know. That's not something that needs to be brought up to the to the audience. Um anyways, so there's such a thing as going too far with positive eugenics, and negative eugenics is always too far.
Yeah.
Because negative
And
eugenics requires you to eliminate a species of life form.
yes. For those of you who aren't aware of the term negative eugenics, think of Hitler. That's
Yeah,
the eugenics that pop up when you think of Hitler.
that's negative eugenics. Um so this this person just really does not get the fact that uh, you cannot eradicate an entire species from the face of the planet. If it comes around naturally, okay, I guess, I understand. But being the force, being an unnatural force that does it, you're wrong. Because every life on the face of this planet deserves to live. Or at least every species on the face of this planet deserves to live. Someone had someone in one of my chat groups had argued that chickens and cows uh should follow the same line of reasoning, and well, I understand, but we're not eradicating the species. We're selectively breeding them in order to
Yeah.
have food for ourselves.
Yes. And it's also worth noting on that end, we're also not only are we selectively breeding them, we're also taking care of them. You know, we're keeping them from being murdered by predators. It is kind of a, it's kind of a back and forth thing we do with animals we eat. We're
Symbiotic.
not just, yeah, it's symbiotic. We're not just killing. We're not just torturing and killing them, right? We're providing them in general a better life and a safer life than they would have had in the wild, and then killing them humanely rather than just eating them alive like would happen if they were found by a predator.
I mean, you say that, but I've seen like a pig get pummeled to death over the head with a sledgehammer because they didn't
Is
have
this in
like
like
those.
Serbia or something or
I
China?
think so. Yeah, because
Right.
we don't
Oh, right.
have those weapons that just put them to sleep instantly.
Fair enough. In the developed world, we generally treat them humanely and even kill them humanely.
I mean, it's pretty metal to just bash a pig over on the head with a fucking sledgehammer, you know?
Sure.
Uh, I I'm honestly just baffled at the idea that anyone wants to put down an entire group of dogs. It's something that my brain can't wrap around.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. If I could put down an entire species of mosquito, I would do that. You could just exterminate all the mosquitoes. I would not. I would not be fine with doing it to dogs, but mosquitoes, I'd look the other way.
Listen,
'Cause I hate those
I
fucking
mean, not
things.
just mosquitoes, a lot of fucking bugs, to be honest. But
as
is
much
that even doable?
as much as I understand that, someone had talked about, well, if I could step on every ant in the world, I would. And I'm like, well, that makes you a eugenicist. And they're like, how? How does that make me as evil as Hitler? And I'm like, well, you have to remember, every species on the face of this planet has a job to do. They all work and they all do something that benefits the world. You may not see
They-
it, but it's there. It happens. Mosquitoes, ants, they all have a job to do. They all contribute to the welfare of the earth.
Like for example, mosquitoes. They are actually like one of the number one like food sources for like birds, for like frogs, for animals like that.
That's true.
Um, Now, stepping on an ant, that's not eugenics. Stepping on all of the ants, that's eugenics. It's the targeting that makes it eugenics. When it's coincidental, it's different. So if I just so happen to take a person's life because they are a threat to everyone in the general vicinity, then that's a coincidental. I'm not targeting everyone of their race group. Now, Hitler targeted everyone of a race group and everyone else that just wasn't fucking pure-blooded German. He should have been targeting himself because even he wasn't pure-blooded German.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had black hair, for fuck's sake. He wasn't exactly blue-eyed and blonde-haired.
Uh, like I said, it's just something my brain will never wrap around. Like, I understand the idea of eugenics. I understand the motivation to it, but I don't understand how anyone could bring themselves to actually want to be a eugenicist. Um, Now, because of all of the Twitter bullshit that I've been in for the past 2 or so days, I ran across a let's see here. Give me a second. So I ran across a post from Ollie London TV.
Oh God.
Yes. And I will put it up on the screen for everyone to see.
Be
It's
prepared for this dumb
it's
fuck's opinion.
yeah, it's the Michigan Pronouns Bill, House Bill 4474. Ollie has said Michigan has passed a law to make misgendering and using the wrong pronouns a felony with a $10,000 fine. House Bill
I'm sorry,
447.
but this infringes the First Amendment, I think.
Just hold on. Just hold on. House Bill 4474 passed the Democrat controlled House and would make it a hate crime to make someone trans or non binary feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened with words, including by deliberately using the wrong pronouns. Source Newsweek. Ollie is wrong. Now, I sit very close to a bunch of conservatives, and even some of them have parroted this talking point. But I've had the scoop on this bill since it entered the Michigan State House, and I gotta say, what they're saying is utter and complete bullshit. This bill does nothing of the sort. Now, it is a hate crime bill, but it very specifically says in the bill that any constitutionally protected acts cannot be charged under this law. which means calling someone the wrong pronoun can't be fucking charged.
So it's pointless.
Yeah.
The law is pointless.
Well, it's not pointless per se, but what when it comes to me and laws, I think all laws are fucking pointless at this point. So I've got it up on the screen. This is House Bill number 4474, and this was as passed by the House June 20th of 2023, but it didn't pass the House. It was actually submitted back to committee for review because after its committee hearings, it went to the House floor in Michigan and they made several amendments. So now it has to go back to the committees for ratification before it can be sent to the House or to the Michigan State Senate.
So it hasn't even been passed by the House yet, then.
No, it has
Sorry,
not
I'll
been
be right
passed.
back.
It has not been passed by the House, but this specific portion of the bill that Ollie London is talking about on Twitter starts at line 16 on page 5. It's section B of paragraph 9. And paragraph 9 is all about it's all about defining two terms that were used in the bill. The first one is gender identity, and the second one is intimidate. The one that Ollie cited is intimidate. But she didn't
How does it define intimidate?
So intimidate means a willful course of conduct involving repeated or continuing harassment of another individual that would cause a reasonable individual to feel terrorized, frightened, or frightened. That's one of the things that'll probably get taken out in the final bill. And that actually causes the victim to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened. Intimidate does not include constitutionally protected activity or conduct that serves a legitimate purpose. That part that serves a legitimate person or purpose, that will also get stricken. Because that is wholly ambiguous and needs to not be there. But that doesn't change the fact that this has nothing to do with pronouns. Now, the line, the portion of the bill that deals with intimidation is paragraph 2 of the bill. I'll go through paragraph 1 because it's a fucking nothing burger. A person is guilty of a hate crime if that person maliciously and intentionally does any of the following to an individual based in whole or in part on an actual or perceived characteristic of that individual listed under the subsection. Paragraph 2. Regardless of the existence of any other motivating factors, A. Uses force or violence on another individual. B. Causes bodily injury to another individual. C. Intimidates another individual. D. Damages, destroys, or defaces any real, personal, digital, or online property of another individual without the consent of that individual. E. Threatens by word or act to do any of the actions described under subdivisions A to D. So if you even threaten to do any of these first four things, use force, cause bodily injury, intimidate, or damage, destroy, or deface any real, personal, digital, or online property, if you even threaten to do any of these things when it is a targeted instance on any of the following factors. So if you target race or color, you target religion, you target sex, you target sexual orientation, if you target gender identity or expression, if you target physical or mental disability, if you target age, ethnicity, national origin, or association or affiliation with an individual or group of individuals in whole or in part based on a characteristic described under subsections A to I. If you do any of these first four things, or threaten to do any of these first four things, based on any of these characteristics, then you are going to be charged with a hate crime. Now, I think hate crimes are bullshit to begin with, but
Agreed.
it has nothing to do with fucking pronouns. Lawful speech is still lawful speech. Just because someone got their fifis hurt because they still look like a dude, because they're at the start of their transition, I'm sorry, but that's not a hate crime. Not even under this bill. I've been called dude all fucking week this week. My feelings aren't hurt. I find it hilarious that people think it's going to offend me. Yes, I know I'm ugly. Get over it. Now, there are penalties for this. You can be imprisoned for up to 5 years, or by a fine of $10,000, or both. And there is a civil liability put into this bill under paragraph 8, I believe. Regardless of the existence or outcome of any criminal prosecution, an individual who suffers bodily injury or damage to the individual's property as a result of a hate crime may bring a civil cause of action against the person who commits the offense to secure an injunction. Actual damages, including damages for emotional distress or other appropriate relief. A plaintiff who prevails in a civil action brought under this section may recover both of the following: damages in the amount of 3 times the actual damages described in this subsection, or $25,000, whichever is greater. And in law, when they're talking about damages 3 times the amount of actual damages, that's actually what's called treble damages.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something most people don't know, and is a pointless thing that I don't really care to know, but I know it. And then
And so treble damage. You said treble damage?
Treble damages is when the jury of a civil court awards the plaintiff 3 times the actual determined damages.
It has to be exactly 3 times? Like, it can't be 4 or 2 or...
Yes, it has to be 3 times depending on the law.
Huh.
in
Is there a reason why they kind of set that out and like actually named it specifically for that amount?
yeah, it's what's called punitive.
Ah,
So there's actual damages, and then there's or there's actual judgments, and then there's punitive judgment. This is what's
right.
called a punitive judgment. You are not only going to pay them back for what you destroyed, or for the injury that you have caused to this person, but we're going to punish you. You're going to pay back 3 times that amount.
I see.
And on top of treble damages or $25,000, whichever is greater, you can also recover reasonable attorney's fees and costs from the person who you get the judgment against.
Hmm.
Um, and my pit bull has decided to come out here. Now they did define gender identity or expression from the second paragraph. Under paragraph 9, it says gender
I'll be right back
identity.
real quick.
Okay. Gender identity or expression means having or being perceived as having a gender-related self-identity or expression, whether or not associated with an individual's assigned sex at birth. Still nothing about pronouns in this bill. I just flew through that.
Yeah. So guess Ollie was wrong on this one then.
Yeah.
Wonder if Ollie even read the bill.
Doubtful. Actually, it's not doubtful because she cited the very thing that everyone's been complaining about from the bill. She
Also, I didn't know Ollie London was a she. I always thought it was a
or
he.
I don't know.
Oh,
Ollie
I
London's a guy. Yeah.
He, she,
Okay.
they, it.
yeah,
Oh,
it seems more fitting.
is this the transracial dude?
Yes.
Oh, that's him.
Yeah,
That's the
that's the
transracial
dude that
Korean.
wanted to be a member of BTS. So he got all kinds of surgeries in order to make himself look like BTS Jimin. And then when that wasn't going very well and was receiving lots of criticism and people making fun of him about it, he decided, oh, he wanted to look like Blackpink's Rose and decided to call himself transgender. And then
What?
after literally like 1 month, came out and has been calling himself a detransitioner and the voice of detransitioners, things like that. And
The
yeah,
the right wing grift with this person is just astounding.
Yeah, I always thought the whole like transracial thing was like a meme people on the right used to make fun of people on the left. But then this motherfucker goes out and does it.
And guess what?
But
You follow them.
yeah, probably do.
one of the biggest things that I remember was the fact of him wanting to look like BTS member Jimin after years of that K-pop member not saying anything. Someone basically like showed him a picture and was all like, "Hey, what do you think of it?" His only reaction was a laugh.
um so we've gotten basically through the two big ones, eugenics and the Michigan pronouns bill, which isn't a pronouns bill to begin with. And reading through everything that's been stricken here, it looks like it was originally a bill about ethnic intimidation. So, because of that, I wanted to get back to the Supreme Court. Now, did anyone go through any of the Supreme Court rulings that I had
Yes.
posted up in a zip file?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you went through the Biden versus Nebraska.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm going to save that one for next week
Sounds good.
because I want to get into.
Are we gonna talk about the Bruin descent?
Yeah, well, we're going to talk
Yeah.
about more than the Bruin descent.
Excellent.
Pull up the bill text for everyone. I don't know if you can see it.
I can, but I can't really make out the words that aren't the Supreme Court of the United States. That's better.
Yeah, give me a second here.
That absolutely fucking atrocious dissent. I always thought Breyer was one of the better of the liberal justices, but I guess he's just the only not obnoxious one. His opinions are still crap, at least on guns.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look into this. The syllabus does a good job of summarizing the case up to this point and most of the arguments. But last week we had talked about pleadings of fact. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Pleadings of fact are always important. And in we talked about how the facts are all laid out in the case. There is no discovery, there is no development of new facts, as the dissent it will always try to say, we need more fact. You don't. All of the facts of the case are already there. You just have to look at the case. So Justice Thomas comes out and I'm going to start from right here. In this case, petitioners and respondents agree that ordinary, law-abiding citizens have a similar right to carry handguns publicly for their self-defense. That is a pleading of fact. We too agree and hold consistent with Heller and MacDonald that the Second and 14th Amendments protect an individual's right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home. The parties nevertheless dispute whether New York's licensing regime respects the constitutional right to carry handguns publicly for self-defense. In 43 states, the government issues licenses to carry based on objective criteria. But in 6 states, including New York, the government further conditions issuance of a license to carry on a citizen's showing of some additional special need, because the state of New York issues public carry licenses only when an applicant demonstrates a special need for self-defense. We conclude that the state's licensing regime violates the Constitution. Here's where the facts come in. New York State has regulated the public carry of handguns at least since the early 20th century. That is a pleading of fact. In 1905, New York made it a misdemeanor for anyone over the age of 16 to have or carry concealed upon his person in any city or village of New York any pistol, revolver, or other firearm without a written license issued to him by a police magistrate. That is also a pleading of fact. In 1911, New York's Sullivan Law expanded the state's criminal prohibition to the possession of all handguns, concealed or otherwise, without a government-issued license. Pleading of fact. Today's licensing scheme largely tracks that of the early 1900s. It is a crime in New York to possess any firearm without a license, whether inside or outside the home, punishable by up to 4 years in prison or $5,000 fine for a felony offense and 1 year in prison or a $1,000 fine for a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, possessing a loaded firearm outside one's home or place of business without a license is a felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison. That's ridiculous.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So every single law, if you look through this, every single citation that they're making in this, the examples, these are pleading of facts that have already been argued. They're already in the case. Whenever you develop a case record, whenever you submit motions, whenever you argue in court, you always cite your cases that have valid standing in your arguments. So these are all already in the record. There is no extra findings of fact to be found. If there was, you missed it because it was all in the record. The defense, the appellates, they've developed this record. It's all there. If it's not there, then it's not there because it doesn't exist. When a licensing officer denies an application, judicial review is limited. New York courts defer to an officer's application of the proper cause standard unless it is arbitrary and capricious. The rule leaves applicants little recourse if their local licensing officer denies a permit. New York is not alone in requiring a permit to carry a handgun in public, but the vast majority of states, 43 by our count, are quote-unquote shall issue jurisdictions, where authorities must issue concealed carry licenses whenever applicants satisfy certain threshold requirements without granting licensing officials discretion to deny licenses based on a perceived lack of need or suitability. So the majority opinion is just absolutely harping on this ambiguous and non-objective standard. You don't even have to have a reason to deny someone their license. You can just deny them a license. Whereas even driving in the US, they can't deny you a license without caught. Drunk driving, too many tickets.
What if you're just traveling?
Okay, let's not get into the sovereign citizen bullcrap.
All right.
Um, Thomas relates everything to other states like New Jersey. Let's see. As set forth in pleadings below, petitioners Brandon Koch and Robert Nash are law-abiding adult citizens of Rensselaer County, New York. Koch lives in Troy, while Nash lives in Averill Park. These are also pleadings of fact. Whenever a majority opinion is submitted, the good majority of that opinion is just going to be statements of facts that have been pled out throughout the case. These are facts that everyone agrees on. So in 2014, Nash applied for an unrestricted license to carry a handgun in public. Nash did not claim any unique danger to his personal safety. He simply wanted to carry a handgun for self-defense. In early 2015, the state denied Nash's application for an unrestricted license, but granted him a restricted license for hunting and target shooting only. In late 2016, Nash asked a licensing officer to remove the restrictions, citing a string of recent robberies in his neighborhood. After an informal hearing, the licensing officer denied the request. The officer reiterated that Nash's existing license permitted him to carry concealed for purposes of off-road backcountry outdoor activities similar to hunting, such as fishing, hiking, and camping. What's that remind you of?
I wonder.
Luna?
Maybe Florida.
Yeah, there you go. Florida. Now,
Going to and coming back from.
going to and coming from fishing, hunting, or camping.
Yep.
Those are the only times that you can be engaged in open carry in the state of Florida. Now, you can conceal carry without a license in Florida, but you just can't open carry unless you're hunting, fishing, or camping, or going to or coming back from. That is asinine.
That is insane. Here in Ohio, we recently instituted constitutional carry,
Mhm.
and open carry has always been legal.
Open carry in the state of Iowa was not legal unless you had a permit to carry concealed.
I don't know why there are a lot of states that have harsher restrictions on open carry than concealed carry, because open carry, you're letting everyone know you're armed. So, I mean, generally speaking, the people who would be doing crimes would be hiding their guns before using them.
And I conceal only within Walmart and Sam's Club and Hy-Vee. Those are the only times I conceal anymore. And the only reason why I conceal is because they have signs on the door posted saying, no open carry. They don't care about concealed carry. So what I do is when I'm getting out of the car, my firearm is open carry. Just before I hit the threshold of the door to Walmart or Sam's Club or Hy-Vee, I conceal it. I've got a flannel that I always wear that just goes right over my gun. Because everywhere else in Cedar Rapids that I go, I'm open carry. Be it the gas station, gun store, which are pretty much the only other places I go. I I open carry, and no one ever has a problem with it.
Meanwhile, though, for me, if I'm carrying, I'm concealed carrying. That's just me. I have an inside the waistband holster that I use.
Yeah, don't you appendix carry?
I do, yes, and insert the joke of my my right testicle aim like looking down the barrel of my handgun.
Yeah, I don't carry inside the waistband. I've tried over and over and over. My gut's just too big. It hurts way more than it needs to. And given the conditions that we live in, I can just carry a paddle holster.
I wouldn't say paddle holster.
A paddle holster is just a little outside the waistband holster. Mine is from Alien Gear, and it's what's called a level 1 retention holster. It has one form of active retention on it, where I have to press a button in order to draw my firearm from my holster. And it's not easy to draw if you are not directly on top of the button, so
So you don't have any issues with someone, say, trying to grab your gun from you.
yeah, if you are not directly on top of where I am, you can't get my gun out of my holster. Though
I also have an out of the waistband holster, an outside open carry type. It is also a level 1. It's the one that I have. I know is a index, an index press to release it.
What does the level 1 convey, as opposed to, say, like a level 2 or level 3?
so
Assuming those are things.
the
Level
levels
2 is
the levels are the number of retention devices, active retention devices. Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me correct this real quick.
or I think I
Level
might be getting confused too.
Yeah, level 0 has no retention. Level 1 has passive retention. That is just a normal Kydex holster. You can turn it upside down, it's not going to fall out, but there are no safety devices on the holster that you have to defeat in order to draw the weapon.
It
Level
can easily be
2,
pulled out.
yeah, level 2, that's when you start adding active retention devices, a thumb press, an index press. The more active retention devices you have, the higher the level goes until level 3, at which point it's just level 3. So if you have a shield that goes over the butt of the gun, and you have a thumb press, that's level 3. And anything beyond that is level 3. Just one active retention device is level 2.
I see.
So we go through all of these pleadings of facts that Justice Thomas puts in here. Goes through the history of the recent cases over the past decade since Heller. And he's very thorough. There wasn't much added by anyone else in the majority opinion. So let's get to the dissent. I can't remember where the dissent starts.
Were there any concurring opinions, or was it only the majority and dissent?
There were concurring opinions. Justice Alito. He picked out a lot of the same findings of facts, or the same fact pleadings that were cited by Justice Thomas. but he wrote his concurring opinion after the dissent wrote their opinion, because Justice Thomas, he was in charge of writing the majority opinion. A lot of the majority will then sit and wait for the dissent and then write an opinion on why the dissent sucks. Not specifically using those words, of course.
Right.
And then oftentimes concurring dissents will be written by the two justices that didn't lead the dissent to rebut the concurring opinions from other majority members.
Right.
So that was Justice Alito. Justice Kavanaugh also wrote a concurring opinion. And it was a very short concurring opinion. Amy Coney Barrett also wrote a concurring opinion, which was short. And then we get into the dissent. Page 84 of 135. And you know that they're in the wrong whenever they're... So it's just like the eugenics bullshit that we were talking about at the beginning of the stream. Whenever someone tries to justify their banning of something using statistics, they're going to be wrong. Especially when it comes to the state. They're going to be wrong because the simple fact of the matter is everything that happens in this world is all circumstance, and you cannot judge all circumstances based on statistics. You cannot judge an individual circumstance based on statistics. You can base statistics, you can judge statistics based on individual circumstances. Absolutely. But it doesn't go the other way. They are not mutually exclusive things. So we had started deconstructing this last week, and I got extremely frustrated. And it was right here that I got frustrated. First, the court decides this case on the basis of the pleadings without the benefit of discovery or an evidentiary record.
You mean like every other case they decide?
Yeah, as I've been hounding on this entire time, every single point that Justice Thomas put up was a pleading of fact, which means you don't need any more discovery or evidentiary record in the case. It's all there. If you can't argue on what has been submitted in the case, if you can't write an opinion on what's been submitted in the case, you instead need outside sources, you're wrong. The defense had years, quite literally years, to build this record and to give the minority all of the information they could ever want. And they didn't. Even if it was not an agreed upon fact, it could have been put in their writ, in their answer to the appellant's cert of in their writ of certiorari. let's see. As a result, it may well rest its decision on a mistaken understanding of how New York's law operates in practice. Second, the court wrongly limits its analysis to focus nearly exclusively on history. So we're getting into their arguing against text, history, and tradition.
Of course.
And for any of the listeners out there that don't understand how the new standard works, you look at the conduct. If the conduct is covered by any of the Constitution, so in this case, the Second Amendment, and the conduct is carrying firearms, well, then you need what's called an analog, a historical analog, or a historic tradition from between the time of the founding of the country, so July 4th of 1776, and the time the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were ratified. So, 1792, I believe.
What? I think it was
1787.
1791. Oh,
Well,
Yes.
the Constitution was ratified in 1787, but the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, they were ratified in 1791.
Okay.
So in between 1776 and 1791, there has to be either a law or standing tradition that does not currently go against our other amendments in the country or other legal precedent in the country in order to justify a law limiting a right covered in the Constitution. So in this case, the only laws that were present in between 1776 and 1791 that limited the ability to carry were laws based on race. Black people couldn't own guns. That's the
Yep.
only law you can show in between those 2 points in time. And that goes against everything that we've developed in courts and in laws and in the Constitution. It's not going to fly. So New York State quite literally has nothing, not one thing anymore. Let's see. The question before us concerns the extent to which the Second Amendment prevents democratically elected officials from enacting laws to address the serious problem of gun violence. And no, that's not the question that's before you. The question before you is whether or not the state can limit constitutionally covered conduct. And how far is too far? And yet, the court today purports to answer that question without discussing the nature or severity of that problem. And here's where the statistics come in. The 120 firearms per 100 people. The approximately 36,000 people killed by firearms nationwide in 2015. Of those being suicides, there were 22,018, about 61%.
Well, that means there was only like non-suicide deaths, there's less than 20,000. There's like
Yeah, there's
14,000.
well, and that's 2015.
Oh, right.
Now there, honestly, at this point, this is all just filler. It's
Mhm.
all filler because they're trying to put in more and more stats about how the death rates have risen. But watch this. In 2015, they bring up 61% were suicides, 37%. So of that 14,000 that weren't suicides, 13,000 were homicides, and 489, or 1%, were unintentional injuries. Now you get into the next stat that they show. The number of firearm deaths had risen to 45,222, or about 25% more since 2015. That means that in 2020, an average of about 124 people died from gun violence every day. And there it is. There it is. They're not going to cite how many were suicides, how many were homicides. And in fact,
Another thing that I really want to see that I know they're not going to actually break down is how many of those like of the like in person on person deaths were self defense. How many were self defense?
yeah, how many were quote unquote justified homicide? They used the word right. It's one person killing another, but they didn't define what is justified homicide and what isn't, or what is murder. They didn't
Speaking of
distinguish
that,
between the two.
you know what statistic they didn't cite?
Hmm.
The FBI's defensive gun use statistics.
Yes,
You
well,
know, the ones that say that more than 2 million people a year use a gun in self-defense
yeah,
every year.
it's anywhere between 500,000 and 3 million, but
Yeah.
we don't have solid statistics on that simply because people don't call the police and report when they've had to draw their firearm.
Yeah. These are
And-
only the reported ones.
And I, you know what? I don't blame them for not calling the police, because who calls the police on themselves?
Agreed. Dumb people.
Sorry guys, I gotta go to bed.
Okay, you
Alright,
have a good night, Molly.
Molly.
Say goodbye to the audience.
Thank you. Goodbye, audience. Goodbye. Sleep well.
And
Bye, Molly.
that was our resident Serbian. I hope she has a good night.
Thank you.
Let's see. Gun violence has now become the leading cause of death in children and adolescents. This is where
False.
this is where it all started. It's where it all frickin' started, was in this dissent. This statistic that they're using was what has sparked everyone to use it's the leading cause of death in children and adolescents now. No, it's not.
No.
Because 18 and 19-year-olds are not fucking children.
And they also don't count babies. They don't count people, I think, from the ages of 0 to 1.
Yeah,
or 2, I think.
Well, newborns to the age of 1. They don't count them.
Yeah.
They only count from this statistic counts from the age of 1 to the age of 19. Or through the age of 19, I should say.
Yeah.
Up until the day you turn 20, you're counted as a child according to this statistic. But that's bullshit, because you are not a child.
Dan, with parental consent at 17, you can join the military. 18, you don't even need parental consent, but you're still a child up until 20.
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense. And that's that's something I'll get into on if we ever talk about tobacco and alcohol.
And it's also
The
just
other,
worth noting that maybe the people writing this dissent don't want to. I would caution them to avoid getting into what kills the most children every year, because it could lead them down some paths they may not want to go.
Yeah, quite literally, if you unfuck the statistics that Breyer uses in this, and you take out 18 and 19-year-olds, and you put in newborns, car crashes are still the leading cause of death in children and adolescents.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's also worth asking the question. Let us say this statistic was accurate and it was actually the leading cause of death among children now. Is that because the amount of gun deaths involving children went up, or is that just because other things aren't killing as many children as they used to be?
Probably the latter.
Yeah, because if that's the case, then you're just making the argument that children have become safer, right? It's not more children are dying, it's just children are dying of less things now, right?
Yeah.
Less car crashes is a good thing.
So, Breyer continues his emotional appeal. The dangers posed by firearms can take many forms. Newspapers report mass shootings occurring at an entertainment district in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 3 dead and 11 injured. An elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. 21 dead. A supermarket in Buffalo, New York. 10 dead and 3 injured. A series of spas in Atlanta, Georgia. 8 dead. A busy street in an entertainment district of Dayton, Ohio. 9 dead and 17 injured. A nightclub in Orlando, Florida. 50 dead and 53 injured. A church in Charleston, South Carolina. 9 dead. A movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. 12 dead and 50 injured. An elementary school in Newton, Kentucky. 26 dead.
Good.
And many, many more.
oh, with how far back they were going to go, I wasn't surprised if they were going to quote even like Columbine.
Yeah. And also to note, yes, they were correct. Newspapers were indeed reporting those things.
Yes.
It yes, that if your argument is the news is reporting a sensationalized thing, well, I don't know what to tell you. Yes, the newspapers do that.
If they want to report on all of the shootings, all of the actual dangerous people, let's go to Chicago, let's go to Houston, let's go to Dallas, let's go to
Detroit.
LA, let's go to San Francisco, let's go to Portland,
New York City.
let's go to New York City.
Let's go to my Ohio's little Detroit up there in Toledo.
Yeah, let's go to Toledo. Let's go to Dayton, Ohio. Let's go to Columbus, Ohio.
Cleveland.
Let's go to Cleveland, Ohio. Let's go to Peoria, Illinois. I can name every stinking city that is going to have a high gun violence statistic because they're all cities. Every single one of them are cities. You get into a population density with less than 500 per mile, that statistic drops. We're talking drops off the board. It's non-existent anymore.
That is true.
Let's see. Now, population density of New York City. 26,403 people per square mile.
Dang.
That is outrageous.
Yep.
Um, let's see here. So, since the start of this year alone, 2020, there have already been 277 reported mass shootings, an average of more than one per day. Blah 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 blah.
Oh, I wonder how they define those mass shootings.
2 injuries or more.
Yep. I wonder if they used to define them differently.
Yes,
They
4
did.
deaths.
Yes, they did. It used to be 4. Now they changed. They cut the number in half, and surprise, surprise, the number goes up.
I remember seeing. Sorry.
Not only did they cut it in half, it's now casualty, not fatality.
Yeah.
It used to be 4 fatalities, now it's 2 casualties. So just injuries alone.
Yeah, I can't, like, I'm a bit fuzzy on the details of this, but I remember hearing a story of where they even counted some kid who went into a school and shot some people with a BB gun as a mass shooting. Like, he shot like 2 or 3 other kids with a BB gun, and that was counted as a quote mass shooting.
Yep.
Which is absurd. Like, just some kid being an asshole, and he's not killing. It's a BB gun, right? It's not a firearm. It's not going to kill anyone. It's just going to hurt. It's just going to sting a little, or maybe a lot. But still.
Breyer continues. Mass shootings are just one part of the problem. Easy access to firearms can also make many other aspects of American life more dangerous. Cry me a
Funny,
frickin' river.
Then why are the murder statistics actually showing that they were higher during the assault weapon ban of back in, what was it, 1994 through 2004? You know,
Yeah,
the good old fucking
it's-
Clinton assault weapon ban, the one that
Yep.
immediately after it ended, they then proceeded to change the definition of what a mass shooting is.
Well,
Yep.
it wasn't that they were higher, quote unquote. It's that they had leveled off statistically during Clinton's presidency.
Okay.
But before that, gun crime was dropping at about a 3% rate year over year. And
Yep.
after the assault weapons ban, it had still been dropping at about 3% year over year.
Yep.
That is
Same exact thing for all those idiots who quote Australia and the Australian gun ban. It was also going down at the same rate before the buyback.
Yes, which happens among civilized societies, even with higher amounts of firearms ownership. The difference here is what happened in the early 2010s or the late 2000s. What was our society graced with?
The internet, or wide scale use of the internet, social media.
Social media. And this plays into my theory about what did I call it again? It's a form of mob mentality.
Yeah.
In which when you're faced with this every day, or when you're faced with a crowd, eventually you're just going to join the mob because it's the thing to do. And all of these people that are committing these mass shootings, the notable ones, these are people who either agree with the mob or are just joining the mob because they see it as an effective tool to get to where they want to go.
Mhm.
Let's see. Reports of road rage shootings are on the rise. Some of those deaths might have been avoided if there had not been a loaded gun in the car. So what? I'm just supposed to not carry my firearm in the car? Oh no, that's right. You want me to carry it in a lockbox in the trunk with
With
another
ammunition
lockbox
separate.
holding my ammunition. Not gonna fucking happen. Now, a lot of people are like, "Well, but that's how you should carry it." I'm going to argue
No.
that the universe is a dangerous place. The definition of the universe is the expansion and collapse of all of space-time and all matter within it. So, if the universe is eventually going to kill all of humanity and has set up all of these traps, hell, I can't even go to space without it trying to suck all of the air out of my lungs. It's dangerous. I have the right to exist by the fact of just existing. I have the right to exist, which means I also have the right to resist any force that would choose to take my life, be it natural or not. The universe doesn't have to collapse. Well, you can join all of the genetically engineered freaks in Deep Space Nine and figure out how to do that, okay?
Oh, I already know how. Do you see the emoji I posted along with it?
I see the emoji, but I don't know what it means.
Oh, it's the Cube face.
I know.
Yeah. So someone gets it. I know.
Yep,
All we have
yep.
to do, all we have to do is sacrifice a bunch of small children to
Oh, Jesus.
for some Faustian bargain to prevent entropy.
Just become anime girl. Just become a
Basically,
magical
yes.
girl.
It'll be fine. You'll like it.
Sell your soul to
Okay.
become a magical girl.
Yeah, to a small, cute little cat-like creature
Your soul or everybody you love.
who, for some reason, no matter how many times you kill him, he just keeps coming back.
Let's
You
see.
can definitely
But
trust him.
Go ahead.
remember, don't lose that gem that he gave you. Or
Oh,
the
no.
little
Don't
thing that he
lose
gave
that.
you.
And
let's
also,
see.
don't get too good at your job either.
Breyer continues. The same could be said of protests. A study of 30,000 protesters between January 2020 and June 2021 found that armed protests were nearly 6 times more likely to become violent or destructive than unarmed protests. Or let's just look at what happened in between June of 2020 and June of 2021 and realize that was some of the most violent protesting to begin with since the race riots in LA.
Yep. It was. I wouldn't say it was violent. I mean, it was fiery, but it was mostly peaceful.
Everytown for gun safety. Oh, let's cite Everytown. Armed assembly, guns, demonstrations, and political violence in America. An article from August 23rd, 2021. Or domestic disputes, and another study found that a woman is 5 times more likely to be killed by an abusive partner if that partner has access to a gun.
You should get a gun.
Yeah, you should get a gun.
I was gonna say what they also don't like to quote is that people in situations like that are less likely to be abused if the woman has a gun.
Yes.
It's almost like guns kind of eliminate the physical difference between men and women. Like, or not eliminate the difference, but you know what I mean.
They're
But
an
even the playing
equalizer.
field.
Yeah, it levels the playing field. Because, you can't overpower a bullet.
Oh,
And
go ahead.
what I was gonna say, for an alternative for anybody who has all of the obstacles preventing them from getting a gun, just remember it's not too expensive to learn how to slice and dice with a kitchen knife.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean,
for,
I
for
could
everyone
also
else,
say
3D printers are a thing.
$200. That's exactly where I was going.
I mean, the alternative to that alternative would just be I know a guy, and for $100, he'll make the body go away.
$100? Wow.
Hey, the butcher likes to keep business at least at a cheap, affordable price. All right,
True.
he's got a lot of pigs.
Gotta keep them hogs fed.
He what happens is that he gives the scraps to the pigs. He sells the actual cuts of meat to the cannibals who like exotic eatings. He makes a profit. Bada bing, bada boom. The system works.
Let's see. We've got this one. Or suicides. A study found that men who own handguns are 3 times as likely to commit suicide than men who do not, and women who own handguns are 7 times as likely to commit suicide than women who do not. Well, let's
Erica, that kind of does stand a very solid point between you and I.
Yeah, I get it, but let's be honest here. We're heading the way of Canada, and we've already talked about medical assistance in death.
I don't want to die from a maple bukkake. I'll die.
What? You don't want Dr. Kevorkian putting maple syrup in your veins?
I am diabeto. I will die. 1 cent of the pure maple freaking blood of Canada, and I'll die.
See, but isn't that what you've been asking for this entire time? You don't want to die? What happened, Coda? What happened?
What happened is that I actually have some class in choosing how I want to go out. Does it mean that you want to go out with your freaking butthole sodomized by 5 guys? No,
Maybe.
does not mean you want. Oh my god.
Sodomized by the restaurant 5 guys.
I'm gonna leave that up to the Cajun seasoning and see where that goes.
Oh
But
my
no,
god.
honestly, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I have a couple of jokes here. One, I joked with my roommate, bashed me over the head with a Tonka truck and fucked my lifeless corpse.
You got beaten up by a taco.
No, I said a Tonka truck.
They said a taco truck. I'm like, you got beaten up by a taco. No, honestly though, freaking dying from high blood sugar is definitely not a way I want to go.
No.
Unless it's like an immediate, I lay down and then boom, coma, and I don't feel anything. That's the only other way. Otherwise, the idea of having everything inside you that's moving feel like absolute maple syrup, it just sticking and clogging inside of you. You could practically feel your body shutting down. That's not a good way of going. And it's not comfortable, and neither is low blood sugar. If I'm gonna go out, I need it to be a 1-hit kill. I don't care if I'm easy. No half-assing.
Which is worse,
that's why
low or high blood sugar for you?
Are you referring to what my type of diabetes it is?
I just meant because you said that both are bad. I'm just what physically do you find feels worse out of the two?
Most often low blood sugar, because at that point I can drop to the floor and just be unable to move my body because it feels like everything inside me weighs like lead. And then and the other feeling is pretty much your body is trying to send commands, do this, do that. But your body is just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Nope, nope. And it's completely resisting every command, and it's just like a fight within yourself. Neither one of them feel fucking great.
Right.
That's why, kids and everyone listening, if you have diabetes, control it. If you can't control your emotions, at least control your blood sugar.
So Breyer continues. He added this onto his dissent after Justice Alito had written his concurring opinion. He says, Justice Alito asks why I have begun my opinion by reviewing some of the dangers and challenges posed by gun violence and what relevance that has to today's case.
It doesn't.
All of the above considerations illustrate that the question of firearm regulation presents a complex problem, one that should be solved by legislatures rather than courts. Well, what kinds of firearm regulations should a state adopt? Different states might choose to answer that question differently. They may face different challenges because of their different geographic and demographic compositions. Sounds like a cop-out to me. A state like New York, which must account for the roughly 8.5 million people living in the 303 square miles of New York City, might choose to adopt different and stricter firearms regulations than states like Montana or Wyoming, which do not contain any city remotely comparable in terms of population or density. Brief for no, sorry. Give me a second here.
That's a lot of words for the more people that lives in an area, the more we get to violate your rights.
Yeah,
Yep.
that is pretty much what is said here. He's still advocating for the government interest test. Strict scrutiny, intermediate scrutiny, practical, or whatever the last scrutiny is. But
Isn't that rational basis?
yes, rational basis scrutiny.
Terrible.
But when it all comes down to it, there is no rational basis scrutiny anymore. There's just the two. There's strict and intermediate. And intermediate, the government only has to say, well, we have an interest. They don't have to prove the interest. So there's no third scrutiny anymore. Stoner says, I've come to the conclusion that arguing with gun grabbers is a fruitless endeavor. They're dead set in their ways, and no amount of facts, logic, and reasoning will shake them from their dumb sheep mentality and them trying to forcefully disarm you and make you a slave of the state too. For the most part, I'd say you're right. Though I have had very very constructive discussions with people this week who would be in the gun grabber camp, who are now seeing our side of things. So don't just think everyone's a lost cause, but understand most of them are. You have to determine it on a case-by-case basis. Just the same as every interaction that you are ever going to have that may ever involve a firearm, it's a case-by-case basis. Just the same as every interaction you're going to have with a dog is a case-by-case basis. You cannot determine anything on statistics when it comes to the actions of the individual. So throughout Breyer's opinion, he says that even by the text history and tradition test, that we should be saying that New York's law is okay because there's a history around 1911 or since 1911. So there's over 100 years. Yeah, sure, there's over 100 years since the Reconstruction and the Industrial Age in the US. But even then, most of the laws surrounding all of this were based on some sort of characteristic. Now, if the laws became less strict as time went on, that would be understandable. But most of the laws were based on immutable characteristics, and that had to go away to begin with. Which is why we look back to before 19 or not 19 but 1791. It's why we look back to 1791 and before then to determine what is history and tradition in the nation. Because anything after that would butt up against the Second Amendment. Let's see. So he's just trying to justify using laws that are older than 100 years. Still doesn't fly. Honestly, it's all just he gets back into these emotional arguments, citing statistics and for instance, this one, given the geographic variations across the state, it is too sweeping for the court to suggest, without an evidentiary record, which again is already in the record of the case. Look at the case. That the proper cause standard is demanding in Rensselaer County merely because it may be so in New York City.
Ah, yes, because geographic variation is a very, very big indicator of how dangerous guns are, right? I mean, now, if you're in a region that's very mountainous, guns are safe. But now, if you're in a flatland, those guns will kill the fuck out of you, right? Geographic variation.
Well, and I don't know who here watched Tim Pool's evolution in the Second Amendment.
He kind of did.
He was for the longest time he was very much so in the camp of, well, maybe let's stop states from restricting, get rid of the supremacy clauses in the states' gun laws and let locales govern them further or restrict them further. But he realized that the more dense the population is, the more likely there is for violent crime to be committed. You're going to need guns.
Yep.
So you need guns in highly populated areas. You don't need as many in less populated areas, but you still need them in less populated areas because, let's be honest, that's where all the meth is.
Basically.
Can confirm.
I was not trying to call you out. The court's tabulation and its implicit question overlook important context. In drawing a line between may issue and shall issue licensing regimes, the court ignores the degree of variation within and across these categories. Not all may-issue regimes are necessarily alike. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They all require ambiguous and non-objective things in order for you to obtain a license to carry. You shouldn't even need a license to carry, as deadly self-defense is a human right. Let's see. So he brings up Alabama, Colorado, Georgia, and Oregon and Virginia still grant some degree of discretion to licensing authorities. As these states demonstrate, the line between may issue and shall issue regimes is not as clear-cut as the court suggests, and that line depends, at least in part, on how statutory discretion is applied in practice. You should not have individualized discretion over a person. Government should not ever have a bureaucrat, a hired person that was not elected, determining whether someone is suitable to carry. Give me 1 second here. Yeah. Let's moreover, even considering, as the court does, only the present state of play is tally. Its tally provides an incomplete picture because it accounts for only the number of states within may-issue regimes, not the number of people governed by those regimes. Well, the reason why those states have such a high number of people is because you've marked yourselves as the states that contain the entire country's culture. I mean, we are talking about ports of entry. We're talking New York, California, Washington. Those states are ports of entry. These are places that have an amalgamation of different cultures. And people don't want to go to other countries to experience other cultures. They want to go to these states and experience the quote-unquote melting pot, which I can understand. But even those people get sick of the melting pot in those states.
Yep.
Because those melting pots, they aren't melting pots. They are ghettos. And
Yep.
I'm not saying
They aren't
ghetto
melting
like,
pots, they're chamber pots.
yeah, I'm not saying ghetto like black people ghetto. I'm saying ghetto like
Yeah.
they separated themselves because one group of people didn't like another group of people. You go even Chicago. As Chicago stands, people did not just get put into areas. The government didn't put people in areas. People congregated into areas and said, we don't like this group of people, so we're going to live here. There is a place in Chicago where Hispanic territory, Polish territory, and Black territory, or if you want to be politically correct, African American territory, where they all meet. And you know that's the corner. You know that's the intersection. because the buildings at that intersection are so run down. And as you go further away from that intersection in any direction, buildings get nicer. The places become less run down. You can see the neighborhoods have taken more and more pride in the upkeep of that of their area. But the area where they all butted up against each other, nope. They're not touching it. They don't want nothing to do with it because they don't want to be anywhere near those people. And it doesn't matter what people you're talking about. There is a group in Chicago that doesn't want to be anywhere near those people. Be it Polish, Black, Hispanic, they don't want to be near those people. Same thing happened in New York. But you got all these yuppies from the Midwest that go to these melting pots, these states, these cities. They want to experience the culture. It's all just, hey, I'm sick of it now. I'm going home. And I just realized that we have gone over our 2-hour limit.
And I'm going to join my kingdom.
And Coda is about to get off. Not in that way.
I never. She leaves me unsatisfied.
So we're just going to sum the Breyer dissent in the Bruin decision. We're going to sum it all up to platitudes and emotional arguments based on statistics that have absolutely no place in determination on individual behavior.
Yes. Bad statistics at that.
At that, it seems Coda has already left the chat. I did not get the chance to have her say goodbye to the audience, and I'm sorry to anyone in the audience that wanted to say goodbye.
Can I say real quick, my dumbass brain, as soon as you said platitudes, it goes, and longitudes?
Where the fuck did you get that?
My brain.
Anyways.
Very nice.
Okay, so our resident Serbian has already left. And our my fiance, my lovely fiance Coda has already left, and it sucks that she didn't get to say goodbye. But with that being the case, I will have the other two sign off with you. Our resident from the non-existent state of Ohio, please say goodbye to our lovely audience.
Goodbye, lovely audience.
And then our resident Soviet Kanakistanian, Dale. Say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you next episode.
And with all of that being said and done, I'm going to give everyone the screen and the intro/outro music, and we will see you all next week. Thank you, and good night.